Her story deals with a subculture of heavy metal music that some feel is sending a dangerous message to your kids.
The forces of evil on the dark side of devil right.
And I want to talk tonight about the devil and demons and witches and wizards.
And we just mix it up with hardcore and aggression and come out with something we think's an original sound.
Loud, fast, heavy, you know.
Well, what do you got?
What do you got?
You're listening to Riff Worship, the podcast that attempts to answer the age-old question, what makes a riff? Why do we care about riffs? Talking about some of our favorite albums containing riffs, talking to people who make really great fucking riffs. I'm one of your hosts, Austin Paulson. With me, as always, is my best friend, Dylan Adams. How are you?
Doing good, bud. How are you?
I'm great. We have a very special guest with us today who writes great riffs in his own right. His band's latest album, Goldstar, is out now via Century Media Records. They also have a bunch of dates going to be embarking on Oceania, Asia, and Europe throughout this spring and summer. Please welcome Zachary Ezrin of Imperial Triumphant to the show. How are you?
Hi, Austin. Hi, Dylan. How are you guys? I'm wonderful, by the way. Thank you for asking.
The record's great. It's out. How you feeling?
Superb.
Superb.
Sincerely.
This album, it seems like maybe it's been kind of a couple years in the making, maybe kind of off of the cusp of a tour you did in 2023. Maybe if you could take me back on the process of like maybe when this started, I'd love to hear about it.
I don't know, man. I mean, we just put this thing together. Like, I have some riffs. I know this is riff worship. I got some riffs, I think, in my phone. I recorded like little 5-second demo or something, like maybe as far back as 2022. Just being like, oh, it's a cool idea. We'll see what we can make with that later on or whatever, like there's a lot of, or even 21, geez. I don't know, man. It was like a lot of, it was a lot, often like ideas for songs, and then the riffs come from that. Or someone will just have like an idea for something and it just gets born. Yeah, so there's no wrong way to write an Imperial song, I guess.
You're on support for like bands like Mayhem, and you'd been touring during this time. You're kind of practicing, confining your set to maybe a limited time constraint. And so with this record, it seems like, you're practicing that as well. Whereas like maybe some of the previous records, you're able to kind of like really explore the space, and you have like kind of maybe longer form songs, and you've really refined it here on this record. And I really love how just to the point and concise a lot of this is.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. It's nice to be able to play a song in 5 minutes,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, just across the board, it seems like you kind of are practicing some of that like rules and kind of restraint, whether even in the studio, like you had like 5 days to complete this record, right?
I don't know if that was like a rule. It was more like
Sure.
a necessity. We only had 5 days. But I think that it's something like that, where when you have restraints, whether it's financial restraints or time restraints, or, rules you set on yourself, like it pushes you to be a bit more creative. And I think when you have, 10 strings on your guitar, infinite, amount of time to record, infinite amount of time to make a song length, no pressure at all. Like it can be a problem for some people, because you might end up writing something great and then thinking about it too long and tinkering with it and changing things, adding things, making it more and more complicated, because by that point your brain's already tight, like used to it. It's not fresh. It's not exciting. It's something I think about when I write an Imperial song. It's like, okay, I'm sick of this song. I've heard it a trillion times. This is not that weird to me. But maybe to someone who's never heard it in their lives, how are they going to experience this song? You know? And I think that's, I think having some, I said this in many interviews, like if you want to think outside the box, there has to be a box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just thinking.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it even sounds like, just based on like some of the reading we've done for this, you didn't go in thinking you were going to have 5 days, right? Like you got a tour offer and it's like, oh, now we have to switch on a dime. Like, okay, how are we going to do this within the amount of time we have? That's pretty wild.
Yeah, but we're Imperial Triumphant. We work quick and we don't fuck around. And it was like, dare I say, the most fun I've ever had in the studio was those 5 days. And I'm not really a studio cat. Like I don't like hanging out in the studio and taking forever. I like to get in, knock it out of the park, and then get on the road because that's where I love playing live. That's my thing.
It definitely seems with, as you said, putting those kind of constraints around the writing process or the creativity side of it. When it comes to it, you get to be a little bit more direct with it, right? As you said, if you spend too much time thinking about something, over analyzing, you almost overexert yourself to a point, and then things get a little in the weeds. Things get a little too, dare I say, just bogged down or watered down even. So like coming in, setting those parameters and working within those means and going, okay, we know what to do. We know how we sound. We know what we want this to be. But if we can work it all within these parameters, let's see what that sounds like at the end of the day. How direct is this going to be? Is it going to work out the way we think it is? And having, the career that you guys have had and the time frame that all three of you guys have been playing together and knowing how to play off of each other and being able to be as direct as possible within all of that is just wonderful to get that type of result that you guys did with Goldstar out of that.
Thanks, Dylan.
I suppose it also lends itself to, Colin as well. Like you guys have also worked with him throughout your entire career. So, I mean, being able to like go in, the dude knows exactly what you want. When you come to him with like, all right, here's what we're doing. Like, here's what we're going for. He gets started right away. Like, how does that process usually work? You go in, you're ready to go.
I mean, he's like, yeah, because he knows. Like he'll usually get the drums set up and all the amps set up before we even arrive, because, or we'll bring the drums like the night before and set everything up or whatever. But he knows exactly what we're trying to do. Usually, I changed a few things on this record, like different guitar, different amp, but for the most part, he gets it. He knows what we're trying to do. I mean, he's in Gorguts and Krallis. Like he gets it. And so, yeah, he works very fast. And so it's really like, yeah, that helps the whole 5-day recording thing go down smoothly.
I'd imagine that maybe wasn't always the case. You guys essentially seem to have grown together. What have you learned, you think? What kind of sticks out in your mind over time? Like, what have you learned through each of these processes? I'd imagine you guys are going to continue to work together in the future, but what's it been like, that relationship over that period of time?
We like tracking live. That works really well for us. We save time and we capture more of the band energy, because maybe, with this kind of music, it's not necessary to be perfectly the same BPM the entire way through or whatever. And I think it works to have this sort of breathing, fluctuating beast. And it's, I like it. It's old school.
You mentioned you kind of switched around some of your guitars and gear a little bit. You don't take me as like, again, maybe not necessarily a rule. Maybe this is more based on your preference. You don't seem to like, even like seeing pictures of what you were bringing out on the road. Your effects are pretty limited. It may be more based on what you're playing with your hands, that more than anything.
Yeah, I don't fuck around with effects too much. I don't really want to be constantly going back to the pedal board and clicking this, clicking that, you know? Like, I want to just get a sick tone and rip it. And occasionally I'll go and hit a thing or two to get an effect, but I'm not a big effects guy. I think I have a volume pedal, because that's my trick to getting like a clean tone. I don't switch channels. I just roll off the volume. So it's still a little crispy. It's not super clean. It's a little dirty. And then I have a delay, reverb, and I use a chorus pedal. That's it.
Yeah. You still a PV guy? Are you still using the block letter, or you've kind of
No. I haven't taken the PV block letter out in years.
Yeah.
It stays in the studio. I mean, dude, this thing is like falling apart, and it still sounds great, but it is just like I'm missing probably more than half of the knobs at this point. I usually tour with either my Mesa Mark V head, or more often than not, I'll tour with this Victory Kraken V4 head. That's like a pedal head. It's like tiny, weighs like 3 pounds. And I just use that because it's easy. It sounds pretty much exactly like a 5150, and it weighs a fraction of the amount. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm still on cabs. I'm still using tube amps. I think for me and my style of play, I kind of like it a bit more. You know, I think Imperial Triumphant might sound a little, I don't know how it would sound really if we used like quad cortex sort of thing, or ran through like the PA. But, you know, we're not really at that level where we need to even give a shit about that stuff, you know? We're a tiny band, and we're just here to kill everyone.
It kind of seems like that is the way it's going for a lot of people, though. Like, I mean, I get the saving of space.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's sick. I get it, you know? And if you're like that kind of band where you're like, you know, maybe stage volume doesn't matter to you, or you don't care about generating any stage feedback, or having it, you know, you like that super pristine, tight, really like gated guitar tones and stuff like that could work. I know that the lead guitar player from Abath, he uses the quad cortex, and he's one of the sickest guitar players I've ever seen in my life. Like, it definitely works for some people, but for me, I don't know, I haven't really messed around with it too much. But like I said, I don't think it really, if I got it, I don't think it would really affect my life too much, you know, other than not having to load in one cab, which is like, not a big deal. Like, it's not like we're a band that has giant cabs anyway. So and I don't know, I think it's fine.
Yeah. No, I always admire, at least, you know, like some of the gear that you are like up front and center with, like those Gibsons that you have are like gorgeous.
I have good gear. I just don't have a lot of it.
Sure. No, I get it. But like, you've always, at any time I've like thought of this band, I feel like my brain, at least one of the things that I instantly think of is just like you're like almost synonymous with like Gibson at this point. And I was always curious.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Let them know that.
Was there any particular thing that, was there a player or maybe like a reason that like Gibson stuck out to you personally, maybe in your youth or like over time?
Dude, Gibson was not even on my radar. And then I ended up becoming, through like just a crazy, you know, story, I ended up becoming a Gibson artist. And then on the next thing you know, I'm like, oh, these are great. Like, these are phenomenal. I know they're not as popular in metal as they once were, but they are phenomenal guitars, and they're a little different than a lot of others, particularly with the shorter neck scale and just like the fret binding and all that stuff. Like it's a bit of a different experience, but I really really like them, and they it's been a fun little quest finding Gibsons that have Floyd Roses, because that's very uncommon and it's a huge part of what I do. But I really like being part of Gibson, and I like the company and the values and the people that work there. They're all like real people. I really dig it, and it's it's working for me.
I know a couple of years ago, I live in the Nashville area. The band played at the end, and I actually got to see you bring Caesar up on stage to I think it was a Symptom of the Universe. So you'd already answered my question about how the relationship with Gibson was going. It seems to be going very well. And to, further go on with what Austin stated, it does seem that you are really synonymous with Gibson gear at this point in time, especially the Flying V that you're using, which you've done all of your own, modifications to, and essentially designed how it looks and what you want it to look to fit the aesthetic of the band and the vibe of the band. Obviously finding something with the Floyd Rose, as you said, is a little bit difficult with that. But have you found any others aside from your main riffer?
Yeah, I have. They make a Gibson XS Les Paul model, which comes standard with a recessed Floyd Rose, and I have two of them, and they're secretly the sickest ones. Like that's what I recorded Goldstar with, is like that one. You know what I mean? Like I think I was having problems with my Flying V the day that we were supposed to record, and I was like, all right, I'll just use the Les Paul, and then I was like, oh fuck, this sounds sick. And so I love the Access Les Pauls. Those are great, and you can buy those new. You don't have to like hunt on Reverb. And then I got an M3 from 1991, super rare model. Totally studied it out. It's amazing. I'm taking it to Australia next week. And then I know that they also been wanting me to play more Kramer, because they also own Kramer. And that's, I guess, a bit more of a metal avenue. So they gave me this gold Kramer, like Super Strat, which I used on the Behemoth tour. And I like that one a lot. It's sick. It's really good. I need to drop it off at the headquarters and get it like sort of serviced, because it's kind of like just needs a little, little setup. But that one's also great. Like, and that's not even an expensive guitar. That one, that's like it's just one, Seymour Duncan JB, Floyd Rose, neck through body. It's insane.
To maybe circle back to like a point we talked about earlier about like, you do have good gear. You don't have like a ton of crazy things going on. And I feel like a lot of it is with the tremolo bar and what you're doing with your fingers. I love there was you said you referred to it as absurdist alchemy, as like some of your guitar playing in an interview I read. Maybe on the topic of songwriting and riffs, what to you makes a riff as a listener or a musician? You have a bunch of like headbanging riffs on this record, but you also add a lot of atmosphere and texture. What do you look for in a riff? What does it need?
I guess like, I don't know, a good riff is something that's maybe, I don't know. I think something that I think it should be a little bit of a balance of like take you by surprise, but also somehow go exactly where you wanted it to go. If that makes any sense. Like, and I don't consider Imperial to be a strictly riff band. Like a lot of times I'm not playing you could consider a riff, but I'm just sort of contributing to the sound of the song, playing more noise stuff or whatever, like, or I'm just playing like, chord changes, or I'm vamping, whatever. Like there's some situations where that calls for it. But when I'm constructing a riff, I think a lot about its context, I guess. because I'm one guitar player in a 3-piece band, and I think the context of what's the bass doing, what's the drums doing, and how is it all going to sit, because I think, yeah, I just think that's important, and I don't know, I'm really, really happy with the riffs that on this record, because and then not all of them are written by me even, sometimes Steve or Kenny will write the riffs, and those guys are really good composers. So it's really just kind of like, yeah, I think a little bit of surprise. Like when you're listening to it, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. But then also you're like, oh, hell yeah, that's exactly what I subconsciously wanted,
Yeah. There does seem to be like a controlled chaos, like almost like a meandering way about like your songwriting, where like, I don't know where this is going to fucking land. Like so much of the times I spend with this record, I'm like, where are they going? But then it ultimately comes to a really like, oh, okay, we've landed the plane safely, or we've gotten to where we needed to be, and we're going to go to the next place.
Imperial Triumphant is sort of like, yeah, the whole thing's on fire, but we know, don't worry. You know what I mean?
I like, you're adding, you said you were kind of like maybe adding to what the other guys are playing. How much of this record is structured, and, there is a lot of feel and expression on this record. Like how much of it is improvised as well?
Not that much is improvised really, unless it's like a solo.
Sure.
Obviously that one song, New York City, is full improvised. Like there is no, that was just roll tape and then stop us at 30 seconds or whatever. Like, but again, we're pretty good at improvising. I think we've got a lot of experience in other genres improvising. And then we've also played together for 10 years. So like, when you're talking about improvising as a band, a lot of people think it's just everyone playing their own thing at the same time, but it's not really. It's more like the difference between, reading from a script like you're an actor versus, having a conversation like you and I are having right now, where we're just talking, but nothing's planned.
Right. I was curious about that. I'm glad to hear it was like,
yeah.
The song just roll tape and improvise. So do you
I think we did like 4 takes and just picked the best one.
And then you just send it off to Yoshiko, or?
Yeah, we never written a grindcore song before, but I had an idea of like, I think a lot of these records we do, there's like one song where like, we're like, let's not rehearse too much. Like, let's keep it a little fucked up. But I think with this one, it was really like, let's just, we'll just feed off each other and see what comes up. And actually, I'll give you a fun little tip.
Okay.
Austin and Dylan, not a tip, a little behind the scenes. The first 2 seconds of that song, where it sounds like everything's backwards, it's literally another take that we did, just played backwards and shrunk down to 2 seconds.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Kind of funny.
I mean, you obviously have collaborated with Yoshiko for many, many releases, and Tomas on Alphaville and Dave. So, if not much of it is improvised, you're sending it off. You seem to give a lot of like freedom and liberty to the people that you are playing with in a lot of ways.
Well, we're working with really big talent. You know what I mean? I don't think I really need to tell Dave Lombardo how to play a solo. You know what I mean? Like, I think all he needs to know is like where to lay it down, and then just when is the tape recording.
When's the Herbie Hancock record coming? Is that on the way?
Working on it.
Yeah.
That's the Reach School right there.
Yeah.
Herbie Hancock. He's still alive. He's about 1,000 years old. Would love to get him on the record. Doing anything. Don't even care.
Right.
What would be, as a person who is like really not familiar with Herbie, outside of like maybe just the very vague, where would be a good place to start?
I'll give you the best place to start.
Please.
Start with Herbie Hancock, Headhunters. I think anyone who's a fan would agree that is kind of like, you know, that's the start. That's premier Hancock shit. I mean, he's the king. We listened to a lot of Herbie Hancock on tour. He's really sort of invented so many genres at this point, and he's just like a phenomenal player. And yeah, that's that. But Headhunters is pretty sick.
You know, seeing the embrace of extreme metal and extreme music, embrace the more extreme versions of jazz and the more extreme structures of jazz, such as yourself or like a Dave Davidson from Revocation, or even the guys from like Defeated Sanity, seeing that creep into this music really starts to blend where, you know, it's not vastly different. We all know where the influence comes from. We all know what the roots of music are, but seeing that blend in with, you know, what's primarily known as kind of caveman knuckle dragging music with like blast beats and all these inhumane sounding vocals, blending in with all these great orchestrated, sometimes off the cuff, sometimes even avant-garde structures has been really exciting to see within the last many years. And seeing that you guys are kind of at the helm of this thing has been really exciting. And to see, you know, people in extreme music actually taking their taste elsewhere and not just thinking, oh, it has to sound one way the entire time. My question for you would be, where do you see it going? If we start to, if people start to embrace listening to, you know, opening their horizons a bit and listening to more music, where would you like to see something go?
Well, where I would like to see it go and where I think it's going are two possible different directions, Dylan. You know, I think that the metal world is definitely opening its mind to other genres. You know, like the most popular metal band right now is Sleep Token, and they're pretty much not a metal band, but it really shows how much how, you know, I guess metal fans can listen to pop music or R&B music as long as it's sort of Trojan horsed in with like some cool masks and shit, you know?
Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. We like it now.
Yep.
And that's cool. I don't give a shit. I think as far as like the more extreme end of things, like what we're doing, I'd like to see it, you know, expand and be explored in other worlds and other ways. I would not want it to see take the route of jazz where it just becomes institutionalized and everyone just sort of plays the standards over and over and over and studies it and tries to play like that. Like, that's boring. Like, try to find your own voice and try your music. I think, you know, it's sink or swim with a genre at this age, which is young, but it's getting old enough where things are starting to get recycled.
It's in a midlife crisis situation right now.
Yeah, I suppose. And again, like, whatever, like, people should listen to whatever that makes them happy. It's music. It's the most mystical, powerful thing on the planet. You can't define it. You can't explain why certain people like certain stuff. But that's just my 2 cents.
Dylan had done a review of Goldstar on our channel a while back, and one of the things that he noticed was your vocal performance. And there's definitely tracks on here that like stick out. Was like Hotel Sphinx is the beginning of that track is fucking demonic, and like the layering that's going on. I'd love to know, you know, how did you prepare for these sessions? Was there something that you wanted to explore or try new? What were you thinking as far as vocally on this record?
Yeah, I definitely try to push my voice a little bit and try to get new textures and stuff like that. And, you know, not I think, I'm not afraid to put my voice through some processors and shit. Like, I don't care about keeping it purely my voice. And even live now, you saw or maybe you saw it in Chicago. I don't know if I did in Chicago. I got like a vocal, what's it called? Like a talk box pedal.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I could be wrong.
And now I can do stage banter without using this voice, which is not very evil. I can speak with the talk box, and it's fucking insane.
Yeah. How'd you track that down?
A student of mine gave me a talk box as a gift, and I was spending a few months trying to figure out how to use it with the mask, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. And then I discovered that since, in between now and like Peter Frampton comes alive, like they've figured out how to do it without the tube in your mouth.
Right.
So I got a pedal that just hooks up through the guitar and the XLR through the mic, and then I can I can talk to the audience, and it's unique and it's interesting and it's in connecting with the crowd, which I think is very, very important. And at the same time, not breaking that fourth wall of the performance itself, which I think, it just kind of. I remember I saw Nile once when I was like 15, and they were like the most brutal band. And then in between the songs, the guy was like wildly friendly. And I was like, this is funny, And I'm sure they don't give a shit. They shouldn't. But for me and what we're doing, like, I think it's very important that every second of the show is presenting like this band.
Yeah, I think there's like thematically everything works. I love the cartoon like cigarette projection. Sick. Are you a smoker? Were you a big smoker?
I don't think I'm a big anything, but yeah, I don't smoke a cigarette if you give me one.
I just the packaging when we got it in the mail with like the Rip and the Dylan and I have both worked in fucking many convenience stores and just
the idea is you're opening a fresh pack of death metal and it will kill you if you listen to it too much.
The artwork as well, it definitely captures your eyes for sure.
He's a hell of an artist, and he's an architectural artist. That's his specialty, and I think connecting with him was a really good decision because we're kind of an architectural band. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's a synchronicity to it. It just flows so well. I had no idea he had like done work for Portal or like Behemoth, and even some of those like newer Carcass records. Like he, yes, there's like an architectural thing to his work, but then like some of like, what was it? What's the Carcass record, Dylan? That
Torn Arteries, the newest one. Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, like, he's a creative guy, and I think it was his idea to do like the labels on there, and I mean, there were plans to make like shit. Like when you open it, it's all like metallic tinfoil kind of thing, but like it just was too expensive. But like this kind of like packaging is important, I think, for us. We're a band that sells a lot of vinyl, and I think it's because the packaging, we pay so much attention to the packaging that you want a physical thing, and so better to put some creativity into it and make sure that people are getting a quality product.
I mean, even as far as like the music videos, I mean, you're, visually, I was, the fact that you fucking performed or recorded on the top of the Chrysler building is fucking nuts. Like, how were you able, I know you had a contact up there, but like, what was that day like getting all of that stuff up there? And just, is there an empty room or floor, or like, what's the deal?
Oh, there's a lot of empty floors.
Really?
Yeah, they're selling it now. That's how not busy it is. It just went up for sale. It was easy, dude. First of all, there's like 12 elevators. It was maybe the easiest music video I've ever shot. Prior to the shooting, it was a little stressful, but like the day of shooting production, easy. And that's kind of my plan when I shoot music, when I produce music videos, is like, what's going to be the least stressful and the coolest? Where's that tiny little Venn diagram?
I think I even read where, you're kind of talking about your different favorite buildings, like that whole upper part you said it's like all stainless steel. Like it's just.
Yeah. It's almost 100 years old now and it looks perfect.
Yeah.
Stainless.
And I don't know. I guess just like even the little layers of like the history of it. There's like maybe the guy who owned it had like a bar up there and he would do some like.
Oh yeah. It's called the Cloud Club. That's a real bar. And there's like pieces of it, like we put like the drum set in front of like this big Art Deco.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Fucking shit. And yeah, I mean, it would have been sick, but it's not open to the public, so they don't make any money from tourism. And so you have to want to pay for, you got to fill those floors up with office space.
Yeah. Are you just constant? I know you're from New York, but there's got to be, I'm sure you're just combing through different pieces of literature on this. I remember in that like mini doc, you had like the Metropolis of Tomorrow. And I think that's like maybe something that Tomas was reading from. Like,
yeah, dude, that's where I get all my shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I get all my ideas.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great book, Metropolis of Tomorrow. Hugh Ferris is a big inspiration to me.
It's a beautiful, beautiful artwork. Like,
yeah, he's sick.
Yeah. Is there maybe like, if I wanted to read up on like the history of like some of the architecture, is there like a place to go? Like I don't know. I'm very fascinated by some of the details that you have provided for the record. And
a place to go? Well, you're at the right place. You bought the record, so that's a good start.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know. Probably the best place to go is to go see it for yourself, I'd say. Historically, there's that book, Metropolis of Tomorrow, and then which was written like in the 20s or 30s anyway, which is kind of funny.
No, I appreciate it. I genuinely curious looking at some of the imagery from that book in particular. It is beautiful.
There's some crazy, there's some good books about New York City's architecture and sort of the history of Art Deco, and that's also a huge it's just like that's like the real New York is that era. Do you know what I mean? Like the era I'm living in right now is like, this is like, I'm living in like Disneyland. This is like to pretend like we're just riding on the dead glory of what New York was, sort of just selling it as an experience that people can pay at the most expensive price. But it's really just a monkey in a red dress.
I mean, like seeing that and, coming maybe on the scene side of things, being heavily involved in it for a long time, like where do you see the music of New York City going? Like what trends have you noticed since you got involved?
I mean, that's I have no idea. New York City will always, it's not even like about metal at that point. It's like, it's really just like all the bands are just kind of crazy. We have so many bands, and to be fair, like I don't really know what the new stuff is. I want to know who's in their 20s right now playing gigs in the city. And I was like, there's no bands, and I was like, no, I'm just not aware of them.
Yeah,
the same way that when I was in my early 20s playing with Imperial to 7 people, like nobody fucking knew who we were. And that's fine, hopefully I just hope that they keep it weird, because that's the state of New York's music since forever.
Yeah.
Maybe not weird, but like adventurous, I think it's fair to say.
I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but the record's out. You got some touring coming up. what do you hope to accomplish this year? Or do you have any plan? I want people to spend time with this record. I think that's important, but maybe looking ahead a little bit, what do you hope to accomplish within the next year or so?
World domination.
Hell yeah.
We get the world tour, hoping to get the band to a higher tier of touring and luxury, trying to make the most, have the most fun on the tours, and really just elevate this music as much as we can.
I love that. You're going to be touring with Psy, a couple other bands on your European tour, correct?
Yeah, we're doing like a bunch of club dates in between festivals. So we got like shows with Psy, a bunch of shows with Car Bomb, I think 1 or 2 shows with Ranzi Pazuzu. So like-minded individuals, cool stuff. Should be fun.
Looking forward to it. Before we go, one thing that we like to do is just share recommendations of things we've been listening to as of late. Is there anything you think people should be checking out? It doesn't need to be heavy. It could be now, whatever. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, the new PSUDOKU record is pretty fucking nuts. I've been ripping that one a lot. They're a pretty incredible band. Oh, that band that we toured with, New Skeletal Faces, they're cool. Definitely listen to them. And then beyond that, I don't know. I listen to a lot of funk. A lot of Sly and the Family Stone is like my go-to. I really like this stuff.
Perfect. Dylan, what have you been listening to?
Listen to a lot, but the newest Blackbraid single really struck a chord with me. War Drums at Dawn on the Day of My Death. It's the first single from the upcoming, I'm assuming it's going to be called Blackbraid III, which should be coming out around early August. So really looking forward to that.
Sick. I picked up a split from our good friends at Meteor Gym here in Chicago, Constellations of Fatality and Metamorphosis. It's a split between an Australian black metal band, Commodus, and an American project called Celestial Sword. I don't know anything about either one of them. It's very raw sounding black metal stuff, maybe some like dungeon synth influence as well, but really liked it. It's out now on Go to Warx. Again, not familiar, so don't ostracize me, but it was really cool. I love the artwork. I was really struck by that, and I've been really enjoying that. But other than that, one more. Check out fucking Goldstar. Check out Imperial Triumphant.
Fuck yeah.
Listen to it. Don't be a chump. Get the record right now. Zachary, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk with us.
It was great to talk with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Check them out on tour if they're going to be in your area. You can follow us at Riff Worship Pod, Instagram, Twitter. But until then, for Zachary, for myself, for Dylan, see you next time. Bye.